Good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Welcome to the Learning Up podcast. I'm Daniel Marcos, your host, CEO of Growth Institute. And today I'm with Bill Gallagher, a great friend, CEO, partner, and coach. Hey, Bill, how are you?
How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. I've been in your podcast 2 or 3 times. So now that you're on my podcast, it's a true honor. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be with you. Glad to have some sunshine today. It's a good day.
So you're in California, in San Francisco. You have sunshine there. We're not here in Austin. We're the other way around.
Yeah, we've got a little sunshine today. I've got a whole week of client work this week, and I get to ski a couple times this week as well. So,
where do you go? Squaw Valley?
Yeah. Today it's called Palisades, Tahoe, former Squaw Valley. Yeah. And there's just unbelievable snow there, spring skiing all the way till past the 4th of July this year.
How far is it from your house?
It's about 3 hours.
Not bad. That's awesome to be able to be on a mountain in 3 hours.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to read a little bit of your bio just to get an intro, and then we'll go into the questions. Bill Gallagher is a coach and master facilitator for the last 30 years. Of entrepreneurial and executive experience. You have spent 15 years coaching and training others in leadership and performance. We'll talk a lot about that, on how to really build a performance organization based on learning, with the center of learning. You have led 4 companies on your own and 2 with someone else. And then you discovered Rockefeller habits very similar to me 20 years ago, and now use it in all your companies. You and I were getting into the scaling up train 20 years ago with our companies, and now we're both coaching companies using scaling up. Today, you lead leaders and teams across 25 cities and 11 countries. You've traveled a lot, my friend. Well, but you go to Hawaii very often. That's an awesome place to have a client. And of course, he's the host of the Scaling Up Business podcast. Apart from all the learning and all that, I love your passion for all the fun. I always see you in social media riding your waves in this surfboard. It's awesome. So let's just close with that. What do you do on your free time after you do all the coaching and all the traveling?
Well, we're going to come into more of this throughout the whole thing, but I think the integration of the fun and play and pleasure with your work, with your passion, with your fulfillment is actually really important. And so I eat my own dog food. I walk the talk, and play, and where I work and how I work with teams is really important. So since the pandemic, I started doing this new sport, wing foil surfing, which uses a hydrofoil surfboard and a handheld wing. And I surf since I was a little kid, and I'll still do traditional wave surfing, but not very often. And I'm a sailor. I would say that's like sailing, surfing, water sports is really key for me. But I like to go fast. I like to have fun, which is like today I'm going skiing. And then the next day and a half I'm with a client, and then I get another half a day of skiing. And so, doing things in the mountains and on the beach are all really, important to me. And the integration of the two is really important, like doing things with teams and leaders in a beautiful place. I frequently take entrepreneurs and CEOs sailing, and then we talk about their leadership style and the thing as we sail. And many of them are not sailors, so they get exposed to the wind and the ocean and in a different way, and that's actually kind of facilitates learning, right? If we change the environment, the experience, then we get the learning just out of the head and like deeper into the body. We integrate differently.
By the way, saw one of your posts in social media. You call it sailing up, and you were with a team. That's very cool.
Yeah, that was actually a forum group, and I've taken YPO and EO forum groups and others on retreat, and local CEOs out sailing on the bay. And San Francisco Bay is challenging sailing for sure.
Oh yeah. So let's go back to the basics. Most lifelong entrepreneurs like you build for companies, and now you coach a lot of entrepreneurs. We were entrepreneurs since kids. Like, give me your background. How do you started all of this, and what kind of interest you've been related?
Well, so I would say I started I got the entrepreneurial disease as a kid. I was selling and scheming and dreaming up things and that kind of thing. And I wasn't a normal kid. I knew that I wasn't normal. So I started maybe in grade school, continued in high school and in college with, side hustles or things like that I like to do to make some money. And I knew that I could pitch, I could sell things, and I was a dreamer and a schemer. So I did that kind of thing. And then I did a mix actually of entrepreneurial, corporate work, entrepreneurial work, starting a thing within another company and across a big range of industries. Telecom, I started and grew a group within Sprint years ago to over 500 million. I've been in tech, hardware, software, services. I was had a group of radio stations as an executive and director there, and I had software development, marketing research, and then, as you know, for a number of years, I ran a fashion jewelry brand with my wife, and then I started coaching actually 18 years ago, and I knew that kind of it would be my future at some point. I would do education and coaching and that kind of work for people in the business world. And then when my wife and I kind of had different ideas about the direction of the company, I said, okay, now's the time. And 10 years ago, I became a full-time coach. And almost, for a little bit, I did it without being affiliated with the Scaling Up organization. Then it was you really who encouraged me to embrace the scaling up tools that I knew. And that was a game changer for me and has been enormous. And I will forever be indebted to you for that suggestion.
Thank you. Just a background, I've been in Forum for 10 years with Bill's wife, part of Gathering of Titans, this program that we go to MIT 19 years ago. So we met long time ago, more on the social side. I've done retreats that we go to San Francisco, and we went dinner there, and we went to the cathedral that night to the yoga and the cathedral and all the meditation. It was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. So thanks for that. And yes, you've come to the Scaling Up ecosystem, but you have done amazingly well. You have brought, I think, a balance of great business experience with amazing coaching, but also all that fun, all that different mindset that you're the coach that brings the most trips and the most engagement and the most fun with our clients. And that's been a lot of fun to see how you do it and the amount of companies that attracts. That's pretty cool. So you also host the podcast, the Scaling Up Business Podcast. You've been hosting it for 3 years now or so.
It's actually been longer than that. Yeah. And we have now over 500 episodes of the podcast, which is kind of crazy.
More than 3 years.
For a while, right? Yeah.
So very cool podcast. And you've been introduced already, had amazing people on your podcast. So what are the main learning and insights you had after doing that podcast 3 or 4 years?
Well, so the podcast accelerated things. Obviously, I was learning the same things, long before. But it really has reinforced and made more clear some of the key learnings. First one that I think is really startling for me, and I didn't realize it at first, is that 10x is much easier than 2x. So bigger is great. Bigger engages people. Thinking only about doubling your company is difficult and incremental. But when you think 10x, not only do you start to think differently, you think exponentially, you reimagine everything, but also you attract people. And you can't do anything really big on your own, right? So that's the first idea. Is like it's going to take something big. Big is interesting to people, and it's actually easier. And the second thing is that suffering, hustle and grind. If by that you mean like doing the most work of anyone in your company or that kind of thing, being Superman, Superwoman isn't actually good for the company or for you. And so I think it's really important to take a look in the mirror. Like we learn you're unbelievable, like a kung fu level learner with the reading and the learning and the inquiry. But you also have to take a look in the mirror and think about yourself. What is it that I'm doing and what could I give up? So I think it's really important to bring in some play, some balance, and some self-awareness to the thing. And probably the last thing is the importance of just embracing routine and basics and that kind of thing. If you're an entrepreneur, your tendency is to reinvent things that don't need reinventing, to come up with ideas that should better be left alone. And there's something really valuable about the routine sets you free, as Vern says. Like, let's just do regular planning, that kind of, I have ideas all the time and I let most of them go because I'm like, that doesn't fit my quarterly plan, that doesn't fit my annual initiatives. And so let's think about when that is, but it ain't right now. So I think those are probably the three biggest things that I would say that I've learned over time.
By the way, I was looking for it. That's why I was looking in my office. There's a new book by Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan called Why Grow 10x Easier Than 2x. The book hasn't been published, and I got a signed copy they sent me last week, and it's somewhere here. I'll look for it. But it's somewhere in my floor, in my but it's somewhere around here. And by the way, there's a great video of why growing 10x easier than 2x in YouTube. Just go on Google. But now they came up with a book with a deeper explanation, and I said I just got a copy recently. I haven't seen it, but it's around here. When you start talking again, I'll get the copy.
That's easier, and that's the kind of clients that I look for, the ones who have really big goals, because people who just want to incremental, they should work with somebody else. If all you want to do is simplify your business and have a little more free time, that's not the kind of work that I do. It's fine. It's valid. It's totally fine. It's just not the kind of work that I focus on. But the second part of it, like, so let's do something really big, something that will be talked about, something that will have impact after you're dead and gone, after your life is over. And that's going to mean you're going to have to get good with people. And the first person that you have to get good with, and like, if you want to have a breakthrough in your relationship with people, you better have a breakthrough in your relationship with the person in the mirror, right? And one of my favorite songs is "Man in the Mirror," right? Michael Jackson's song. It's very moving. It's like, you got to start with you. You know, you got to work on anything that you can see going on over there, not just the surface, right? Am I too heavy, or is my skin bad, or whatever? But are my teeth white enough? You know, but underneath the surface, right? How is my soul, right? What kind of person is that?
So let's go into the leader. You've coached a lot of these amazing entrepreneurs that they think 10x and think different and all that. What are the skills that you think they need to have, or have you seen in your clients, that will really help them scale companies and really enjoy the ride? One thing is to scale a company, and the other one is to really enjoy the ride. And that's why I like your sailing up and all the travel that you do and all that, because you're really enjoying the ride of being a coach and helping teams go to the next level.
So there's, I think, no need to suffer for the good things, right? A lot of people feel like, well, if I enjoy it, if I get paid, if I like whatever, then somehow it's not really like the good work, the best work, that kind of thing. The need to like suffer for something, I'm like, that's BS. Yeah. So in my world, like, you could have the fun things, the hedonistic, the pleasure things, and also the purpose fulfilling kinds of things, your why, right? And if you put those things together for yourself, your life, your work, there's really 4 skills that I've noticed and learned from others over the years. But what I have realized is that they work together in a particular sequence. They are 4 simple things that are fundamental to leading, and to leading leaders, ultimately leadership that scales. And 4 skills. So the first one is inspiring, right? We want people lit up. We want people excited. And the point of Inspire is to create like an emotional outcome. I feel good about things, right? I'm inspired by the boldness. I'm inspired by the courage. I'm inspired by the strength, right? And we think about a leader who stands before the nation and says, we're going to go to the moon, or says, you know, we're going to, like, people who, or says, I have a dream, that kind of thing. Or a leader who breaks down, as I did in front of my team, and says, I don't have the answers and I'm scared, but I'll promise you that I won't quit, that we're going to fight. These kinds of things inspire people because they change the way we see the future. They produce an emotional outcome, very related to Simon Sinek's work. start with why, resonates with a deep part of the brain, right? So inspire is number one. I feel great. But then that automatically leads to, yeah, but what's the role for me? I might be crying, I might be excited, I might be whatever about this thing that I now see out of you, the leader, sharing with me. But what's in it for me? So the leader's next job is to engage, and that is to help you connect the dots to see what the opportunity is for you to work, right? So engage is when we pitch, propose, sell, commit, and we get commitment and action. When somebody says yes and they start doing something about the yes, right? They sign the paper, they take the job, they agree to partner with you, they buy from you, and then they give you their money or their time or whatever it is. That's engaging, right? I've engaged you at that point. But to get good at that, you have to get good not at being a better pitch man, which is what a lot of things have focused on. What do you say? No, it's actually about how you listen. So when I know who you are and what you want, and when we're deeply connected in conversation, I'll just naturally say something that fits, or I'll move on to the next person, right? But if you're all lit up about something and I have a conversation with you about how you could participate in what I'm up to, then, and I have it with then yes is natural, action is natural. So that's the second piece. And then of course, if we've got people who have said yes, that are taking action of some kind, we've got to actually plan and coordinate, right? And that's the whole world of the scaling up planning thing. Stephen Covey's start with the end in mind, thinking about what could go wrong and that kind of thing. So that's and then finally, we're out there taking action, we're working together, but we get discouraged. We have setbacks. So the point of coaching, which is the final of these 4 critical skills, is to keep people in the game, right? I keep you in the game when I remind you of your inspiration and why you're here and why you're engaged. And then we replan and re-coordinate our actions together. That's how these things work together and build over time. So I say there's really only 4 fundamental skills in leadership. Now, there are things that you might do to sort yourself through that, but those are the critical skills and actions required of a leader at any given time, at any size, a global organization or a small team. It comes down to those 4 things again and again and again.
Inspire, engage,
inspire, engage, plan, and coach.
Super. Okay, awesome. Now let's go to the company.
Yeah.
What kind of challenges and opportunities are you seeing today in business? What do you help them the most, and what do you have to help them overcome as a challenge to really be able to take out as an opportunity?
Well, so think about today, right? We're overwhelmed with change. First the pandemic, and then the post-pandemic, and then the war in Eastern Europe, and then, whatever it is, right? We've got famine, we've got flood, we've got whatever. But throughout millennia, right? The only constant is change. So to wait for your business to come back or your industry to come back is a fool's game, right? So change is just constant, and it's just speeding up, if anything, and going on. And so we always have to sort of be leaning and moving forward into the change. And yet, and technology is an accelerator, right? Like, I've grown up with technology, and it's changed so dramatically over the course of my lifetime. And it's just accelerating and highlighting the differences in things. But through all of that, people still matter. People are the most challenging thing that we deal with. Ourselves, our primary relationships, our work relationships, so yes, change is happening, and stop worrying that change, but people matter. So how do we work together, right? Where I live in San Francisco, or outside of San Francisco in the Bay Area here, our downtown areas are empty, or virtually empty by comparison, and far more than the rest of the country because of not only being trend-setting, but also the technology industries here. And nobody wants to go back to the office. So people want to work from home. People don't want to commute. And while we might be at the leading edge of that, I think it's just going to keep growing. It's opened up. And so what do we come together for? Well, we come together for meetings and things like that. My son's company is doing AI art stuff, and Midjourney's company. It's kind of badass, and I'm really proud of his work there. So there's I don't know what the current number is, but they were 12 people, right? And they all work remotely on computers. It's very easy for them to chat on Discord or wherever that's where they deliver their service. But they come together for meetings because, like, you have to have a regular kind of connection with people. And although we do really good work with Zoom and Mural and things like, online meeting tools, it doesn't replace kind of the human connection side. So the importance of mixing the two, it's powerful to be able to meet remotely. For you and I to do an interview like this is great, but sometime you also have to like connect as human beings, take a walk. One of the biggest things that I do in the beautiful places that I lead our team meetings is I send people out for a walk. Like, okay, here's a question, go out in pairs much better than 3, but if you need to go 3, but just don't get to 4, go take a walk and talk with each other about this question. Ponder this as you walk around the beach or the mountains or whatever. And that's just super powerful, right? Like, how do we connect more? So maybe you're working from home, maybe you're like remote always, but get together in some way with some regular frequency.
So at the Growth Institute, we meet once a year for like 5 days, and we go to the beach or a mountain, all the team from all over the world that we are. And my team say, hey, we need to do it twice a year. But by summer, we're kind of losing the track. We need to meet again. So we're figuring out this year to at least meet twice a year, all the team together, and really be able to focus, have these conversations, walks, whatever, and be able to have that connection. And by the way, we love that connection. It's crazy how the company moves faster once we come out of these retreats, because people are having fun together. They really enjoy working with each other and they want to do better work.
Yeah, don't underestimate that time. Like, do a cooking class together, or do some activity. I took a board group once. We had a meeting in Panama, and then after the meeting, we went to a little surfing village, and we arranged for everybody to get surfing lessons in Panama, a place that I had been when I was much younger, and it was so phenomenal and such a place to create connections and deeper bonds and understand each other in ways that we hadn't before.
That's very cool. All right. So let me go to the selection of the business. As entrepreneurs, and they've been working a lot on helping entrepreneurs build a life by design and then build a business that aligns to that life. And you've coached a lot of CEOs in big transitions. So how do you recommend an entrepreneur, someone who wants to build a company, to really understand what kind of company they want to do so they could really enjoy that company and not just being stuck with a job?
Well, I think both of these things are, the long view is always the best. So when I'm thinking about my life, right, I think there's a very, very simple exercise. Probably everyone's heard of this before, but the obituary exercise. So I don't think you need to write it formally, but if you think about after you're dead and gone, right? And that is troubling for some people. So if that's troubling for you, just think about your retirement maybe, or the longest out, the sort of your life turned out. Who do you love? Like, who do you want to remember you? Think about those people. And then what do you want those people to say about you? And you could think about each of the faces and how you want to be remembered by them. And hopefully you'll see something there. And usually it's about giving something away. But what you give away, what you contribute is the unique thing to you, right? So some people want to spread beauty in the world, or freedom, or knowledge, or, these are the kinds of things. For me, it was really just being generous, right? I wanted to be seen as a generous contribution. I wanted people in any domain of my life to think about that. So the first thing, right, think about the long arc of your life. And then I think it's important to think about what you love, the kinds of things. So that's on the personal side. What's fun? Like I've said, sailing, surfing, being outdoors, skiing. These are fun. For music is really fun for me. So if you think about that, then on the business side, think about the same thing. What problem do you care about? What troubles you? What do you want to go to work on in the world? And then like, how do you want to design it so that what do you want to accomplish? So when I thought about my business and I thought about this stage of coaching and that kind of thing, and I figured, well, this is pretty much my last job in one form or another, right? And I'm like, okay, well, let's say I want to retire at 80 or 85. What kind of impact do I want to have? If I want to help leaders, right? Help leaders build a better world is my business purpose. Then I think 5 million is the number, right? And how do you create a BHAG like that? In that case, it was a 30-year BHAG, not a 10 years. I approached 10 years. I'm closing on 1 million impact of people that I've touched in some way, reached with our show and talks and coaching. And so it's a balance between not absurd, not ridiculous, achievable relatively by someone in your situation, but big enough to be worth of giving your time, your company, whatever to. So you create this big, hairy, audacious goal, Jim Collins' term, the BHAG, or something like that 10 years out, and thinking about a problem that you're interested in solving. I love doing the coaching and training and speaking and the work that we do. It's so enjoyable for me. And it's important to me to do it in a particular way in places we've talked about, right? But I want to get to that impact. And along the way, I intend to make really good money at it. So I think the same thing, like everybody that we coach, it's like, okay, what problem do you want to work on? Let's think really far out. What impact do you want to have? Right? That's the critical piece.
What type of company you want to build?
Yeah. What's the flavor of the whole thing? Right? Yeah. What's your style? What's your jam?
I've seen that is very tough for family businesses. That yes, you inherit a business and a great asset, but sometimes they become a slave of that asset.
Yes,
if they're not able to change the asset and really make it work for them.
But think about it. So then, okay, so you're going to take it over now. What are you going to add to it? What's your unique addition, right? You're not just going to do what your mom or dad did. You want to bring your own little flavor to it. You want to leave and add something to it, even in a family business. And I think that's a really important kind of thing. Sometimes you don't even want to be in the family business.
I usually tell people that, column 2 of scaling up, the purpose column.
Yes.
You have to realign column 2. I always said column 2 lasts the life of the CEO. Once you change the CEO, you have to rewrite column 2. And column 2 is all about that. It says, okay, thank you very much. I inherited the business. Thank you for that. But I'm going to have to change the purpose of the business to make it my purpose so I could really enjoy doing the work that I need to do. If I don't do that, then I will be a slave doing your dream. And I don't know if you read this book, The Way of the Superior Man by David Data.
One of
the things that he said, it's a great book. One of the things that he said is men has to live like if their parents are dead, because that what it means is you stop doing things to make them happy and you start doing things that will make you happy. Same thing happens with a business. So whenever you're able to understand what problem you want to fix, what type of company you want to build, what do you care, what people that you like care that you care about, what they're going to think about you, then you're going to be able to build a business that you will enjoy and you will not feel like a jail around you.
I love that. And I think there's a real opportunity there to add and create that purpose and bring something to you that you actually care about, and to do it in a way that is fun for you and that plays to your strengths, right? The Japanese have this concept, the ikigai. And if you think about the intersection, right? I have my strengths. I have things that I'm naturally good at, but those by themselves, they're born of a mix of genetics and survival, right? The nature and nurture. So we inherit certain things, and then and we learn to use some of them for survival. And it's very satisfying when you're good at something, except it's still survival. It's not necessarily fulfilling. Then there are the things that we're proud of, that we want said about us when we're dead and gone. And that's fulfilling and satisfying in that way. And then there's the fun, and the intersection of those things is the real opportunity. If you get all that stuff aligned in your work and your play, now they don't have to be exactly like, I could do coaching and training while I sail, but the sailing itself doesn't have to be the thing. And if I just sail or surf or whatever without anything else, it's not it's only momentarily satisfying, right? Like if I don't take other people out, or if I'm not around other people, or I don't use it in some way, then it's not that satisfying to me. Just hedonistic pursuit, pleasure-based things is not actually that satisfying for most people.
That's why I love the recent talk shows. They've gone into cars because people are enjoying the car, enjoying the drive, the coffee and all that. And you're having a good conversation with a celebrity or someone you want to have fun. And by the way, it's super different than what we're doing today. Instead of being in an office, you're outside enjoying something and talking about whatever you're doing, plus driving an amazing car. That people that like cars, it's a good way. There should be a podcast around golf and just playing golf and be asking the questions around golf.
Well, could you integrate the things? Like for me, it always existed in like two domains. There were things that I loved that I had fun doing, whether it be the music or sailing or flying or whatever. And then there were the things that I was really proud of, that I wanted my grandmother to look down from heaven and say, good job, and be proud of. And really, the intersection of those things was the real breakthrough for me. And I was being coached and trained by a guy named Dean Jones, who's now the global learning architect at the Gallup organization. And Dean's like, well, we got to create a project and something that integrates that in your life. And so I thought of, and I just thought it was BS when I first heard them say it, like you could do anything that you really like, but just bring that life purpose to it. So I'm like, well, I like to fly and nobody wants me to fly but me. It's expensive, time-consuming hobby away from my family and that kind of thing. But aerobatics and unusual airplanes is something I used to do more of. And so, but okay, and if the point of my life is to make a difference, to be a generous contribution, how do I be a generous contribution with flying? And I'm like, well, I'll take kids flying, right? Kids from the poor neighborhoods around the thing, or from anywhere really. And so I started doing that. And now, like, my life's altered. So now my wife's like, hey, get up. You've got kids to go flying today. And I started flying. And then I started telling other pilots about it. And they started donating their time in their airplanes. And we were all showing up, once a month or so to take kids flying. And we took over 1,000 kids flying. And then I was in the news and I was on TV and all the time. And then I go into the office and my copier repairman is in there fixing the copier, and he looks up, he looks at me and he's like, hey, you're the guy on the TV who takes the kids flying. And now I'm not just another scumbag CEO. I'm the guy who takes kids flying. I'm the person who's out to make a difference for other people, even with my expensive, time-consuming hobbies.
That's pretty cool.
Right?
But yeah,
cool.
That's how you start defining your life. And it's incredible. The more value you add to the world, the more value the world brings back. We've always seen that. You and I have been very involved with EO for many, many years. And it's one of those organizations that the more time and energy you put into EO, the more you get back, you get out.
Yeah.
So same thing on this.
The Beatles said the love you take is equal to the love you make, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. 100%. All right. So with that note, let's end. But last question. If you could have one lesson to business leaders, what would that be?
So I would say stop working so hard, right? Like you're working too hard. You're stressed out. You're tired of being on Zoom or whatever it is. You're tired of commuting, whatever it is that you probably sucks for the other people around you. Go have some fun. Let your team do more. Help your team to level up. Be a better coach. Let people do more. Stop trying to be Superman or Superwoman. Put some play back in your life and encourage your team to do the same, or maybe invite them along with you. Life and our businesses never get any easier. They just never get any easier. It's always like dealing with a contraction or dealing with growth or frustrated, being plateaued. But like it just is hard like that. And it's hard like that for the rest of your life until you die. So have some fun because it's not getting any easier. Embrace it. Like lean in, bring a little play to the ups and downs.
100%. All right. Bill, where can people follow you? Any social media? If they want to know more about your...
They can go everywhere. Scalingcoach.com. I post regularly on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, but all the platforms, scalingcoach.com, and the podcast is the Scaling Up Business Podcast.
That's awesome. Bill, thank you very much. Great pleasure. And it was great to have you and I'll be able to ask you some questions and learn from you. Thank you, amigo.
Thank you so much.
Bye.